On today on Locked On Nuggets, we're going to talk Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. There's been a lot of conversation around Joker and the Denver Nuggets as they lost in the second round. The question remains, is he the best in the world? And if so, what are some of the things that the Nuggets are going to have to do to fortify the roster around him as we get ready to go into his age 29 season? We're going to talk about all that and more here on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every day. Shout out to y'all for being here. I hope you're enjoying your Tuesday. This has been a really interesting last couple weeks of basketball, y'all, but we had the last few days off. We're getting ready for the Dallas Mavericks and Boston Celtics to play on Thursday for game one of the NBA Finals in Boston. And I actually am really curious to hear, who do y'all think is going to win that series? But y'all, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, y'all. Y'all know what time it is. Let's talk some hoops. So Nikola Jokic has been, for the last 4 seasons, kind of at the top of the NBA tier. He has won an MVP 2020, 2021, I believe 26, 11, and 8 that season. The next year, 27, 14, and 8, wins back-to-back MVP awards. And then maybe his best regular season, Nikola Jokic, 25 points, 12 rebounds, and 9.8 assists, 70% true shooting, the most efficient high-volume scoring season in NBA history. And then he follows it up this last year with 26, 12, and 9, led the Nuggets to 57 wins, played 79 games this last year, and then in the playoffs, basically puts up about 29, 13, and 9 on the run for a 62.5 true shooting. So I think what the conversation that has really developed here is Nikola Jokic versus the Timberwolves faced a lot of different coverages, and they were stunting, they were blitzing, they were making sure that life was going to be as difficult as possible off a lot of the DHO actions. When he did get isolation, they were either helping if it was Rudy off ball and it was going to be Cat or Naz Reid on him, or on the other end, they were swarming like game 2 versus the Timberwolves. And I think a lot of this, the thing that I noticed most out of these last 2 series, it's that when Nikola Jokic needs to get into his bag, he's able to do it and do it at a really high level. But I think one of the things about being a big, it's that bigs, they just have to have a well-constructed roster around them. And especially like when you're a passer like Joker, playmaker like Joker, like you go Luka, LeBron, other players of that kind of archetype that are like all-time great playmakers. And they have so much gravity as on-ball players, and even Jokic, especially off-ball, that you just want to give them as many pieces as possible to help make life as easy as possible. And so in this instance, Nikola Jokic in the first round, I had to go through these numbers because I kind of forgot just how good his numbers were, even if people felt like he was a B+ in that series. Joker averaged 28.2 points, 16.2 rebounds, 9.8 assists, 1.2 steals. He had a 67 true shooting in that series. He had a 67 true shooting in that series. He really just like dismantled what many people felt like is the best defensive player in the world. I believe 67 points and 25 assists when Anthony Davis was the primary matchup in those 5 games. But then he faces the Timberwolves, and in the Timberwolves series, still 29, 11, and 8 with 1.6 steals and 1 block a game. Now, the thing is that for any other player, that's like incredible. Like a 29, 11, and 8 performance, anybody else, that's incredible. But I think the thing is, because Joker is Joker, the level that we expect him to get to is just a lot higher than that. And in the last 3 games, especially 40, 13, and 7, 13 assists in that game. And then he had 35, 7-7, 40, 13-7, 22, 9-2, then 34, 19-7. And so what I noticed this run is that Joker played so many games this year, and he had to fight so hard down the stretch of the season that I do think that ended up costing him some of his normal output that he would have had come playoff time. Because I think the Nuggets coming off that championship run, and again, this is not about excuses. This is just simply what the players have noted. Aaron Gordon talked about the fact that when they were coming off the title, they got everybody's best punch on every single game. And then on top of that, after getting their best punch, whenever they would try to like travel and recover, it was the same thing every night. Every team was going to show up and give their very best. Every team was going to show up and they were going to fight and push and pull. And I think in this instance, I just think that over the course of the year, because Joker had to carry so much without Jamal Murray, 23 games missed, he only missed 3 games. I just think that he put a lot on his shoulder. And while it did work for the regular season, again, 57 wins, y'all, in the month of April, Joker averaged 29 points a game, 13.3 rebounds, 8.3 assists, and 2.1 steals. And he had a 68 true shooting in the month of April. He shot 61.7% from the field, 47.8% from 3. And so Joker basically had near playoff level numbers. He averaged 30, 13, and 10 in the previous playoff run in the 20 games. He averaged 29, 13, and 8. So I think a lot of this is just Joker had a lot of opportunities this year to really play some really dominant basketball. But what it feels like is that by the time the playoffs came around, just that level of energy and execution, it just wasn't as sharp as you wanted it to be. But again, I think that's mostly just because of having to carry the load with the way Jamal Murray's situated. And again, the reason I'm asking this question is because if you look around the league and you look at the way Luka Doncic is being talked about, Luka's been incredible this whole run. Let me not say that. He's not been incredible the whole run, but he especially was incredible versus the Timberwolves. I think he was dealing with some injuries and some knee injuries, especially in the first round versus the Clippers. And then obviously in the second round versus OKC, it remains to be seen for many, depending on who you are, like if he outplays Shea in that series. But nonetheless, ever really since Luka's been kind of creeping up since the first round, and he's gotten better and better and better. And then he gets into the Minnesota Timberwolves series and goes haywire, like 32 points, 9.6 rebounds, and then 8.2 assists in that series. And then he shoots a 62.7% true shooting, which is incredible. It's really good. But the thing about Luka that made it so special, Luka actually didn't shoot well from 2, but Luka took 10.6 3-pointers a game and made 43% of them. 10.6 3-pointers a game in the Wolves series and made 43% of them. I think that was like one of the things that really obviously elevated the Mavs, because if you remember the opening of Game 5, Luka's 20 points, and I'm talking about pull-up threes from half court, pull-up threes from 28 feet. He was driving downhill, step back all Jaden McDaniels, driving downhill, snake around Ant, getting a floater up, again, another step back over Jaden McDaniels. He was just kind of all over it and in his bag. And here's another thing I also wanted to address, because I've seen this before. Luka wants to take over and Joker avoids it. Now, Russell, obviously we're friends. You've been on this platform for a while. You obviously know who I am. Russell, I think one of the things about narratives is the way they set in. I think because Luka talks a lot, because Luka is chirping, then like people have now kind of made this assertion that somehow Jokic is not a closer or not the one that wants it, especially in the fourth quarter in the game. But y'all remember, I think Joker was 3rd in clutch player of the year ranking this year. I think Joker shot 58% in the clutch time this year. He was one of the best scorers, if not the best scorer in clutch time basketball over the course of the year, depending on how you look at DeRozan or Steph Curry. Like Nikola Jokic has multiple playoff game winners. He's won series off of game-winning shots. He had a half-court buzzer game winner with the Golden State Warriors this year. He's closed out multiple teams, including the Celtics at home. So I think some of this is just Joker is just never going to force the issue to the point where he makes a bad play. And I think that's the difference. But I think that's not really what happened. I think in the Game 7 of the second round, I'm telling y'all, if you look from the top of the third quarter when they're up 20 to the rest of the game, the team looked like they ran out of juice. They ran out of juice. And that, for me, is the biggest issue and what I want to talk about in segment 2, because I think that has a lot to do with how the Nuggets should be thinking going into this season, knowing that they need to make sure that their best 5 are healthy, locked in, and available and ready to rock come playoff time. But we're going to talk about all that and more here on segment 2 on Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. We'll be right back for more here on Locked On Nuggets. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every day. Y'all, make sure if you're listening to us on audio on Apple iTunes, you give us a 5-star review. Y'all, the best part about it is we got content coming up all summer. All summer, we're going to be here rocking with you. Any news, any updates that you get, Matt, Adam, and myself, we're going to be here with you, having great dialogue about your Denver Nuggets and the things they can do to continue to improve their roster to get championship number 2. And y'all, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We're on the way to 7,000 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. Y'all, it's not the off season for us. We're locked in all the time. Yo, so the Denver Nuggets are in a situation now where Nikola Jokic is going to enter his age 29 season. This could possibly be the very best version of Joker that we ever get. This could possibly be an even better version of Joker than we've already got. And the reason I say that is because right now, Nikola Jokic going into his age 29 season, this is arguably when LeBron, when Steph, when Durant, when Michael, when Kobe, all those all-time great players, this is arguably the year that they take that leap into the precipice of all-time great status. So I think some of this is Joker is obviously, Lord willing, he's available, he's healthy. He is going to have a lot of responsibility. And with that means that he's going to need to be fortified even more than he is. And again, it's not even just about the roster, because the roster was good enough. I want to be clear about this. I think that, and I told y'all this going into it, the Mavericks were one of the worst matchups for the Timberwolves because of the match advantages they had, especially on the wings and at the guard spot with Kyrie and Luka. The Timberwolves were the worst matchup for the Nuggets across the league, because they go double bigs at all times. They have aggressive defenders, and they're just going to throw stuff out at Joker and Jamal all game. And that's what they did. But again, the Nuggets were up 20 points in Game 7. They could have won that series. And statistically, they should have. They should have won the series. But they didn't, and that's a credit to Minnesota. That's also a little bit of a discredit to, I think, the infrastructure, and just they spent all the gas at the end of the season. And on top of that, they just lacked a lot of shooting. Michael Porter wasn't hitting shots. KCP wasn't hitting shots consistently. You know, Jamal Murray had to deal with a calf injury and a really, really, really tough defense. And then Jokic was getting pressure all the time. And Aaron Gordon shot well from 3 over the course of the series, but he's not a floor spacer. And then Peyton Watson wasn't getting minutes a lot. Justin Holiday was, because he's a good shooter. He's a veteran, knew what he was supposed to do. Christian Brown got a lot better at three-point shooting this year. But I think a lot of the stuff that's going to help to mitigate what Joker needs for the rest of this portion of his career, I think it's going to be a backup big, and it's going to be making sure he has POA defenders around him at the top. So a lot of the stuff that's happening now is, I think with Nikola Jokic going into an age 29 season, you know you're going to get like another MVP season from him. He might win again because he's that freaking good. And I know like a lot of fans don't want to hear that. I know some analysts and some pundits don't want to hear that. But Joker is just that good where he's locked into a situation where he could literally win again. Now, is Joker still the best player in the world? Look, consensus, I would say yes. I would also say this, that if you look at the traditional numbers that measure impact, win shares for 48, your Forbes, your box plus minuses, your PER, all that, it's all Joker. All of it is Joker. And raw data even, Joker has been incredible. But I do think Luka is pushing into the conversation for top two, because for a long time, people had Joker and Giannis. But I think Luka has just shown with his shot-making ability, his shot creation, his size, his poise, the fourth quarter scoring, late game scoring, and I think because of the sheer gravity that he has as a basketball player, he's James Harden, but in James Harden's like best optimized situation, where he's even bigger than James. But he's also like so skilled, and he's learned a lot how to get to the rim, how to get to the mid-range, how to get to the three-pointer. And when Luka's shot is falling, it's like, all right, what do we do now? That's the thing. I think with Joker, I've tried to explain this multiple times. Joker, because he's 7 feet tall and because he's big, I think a lot of the things that people miss about them is that Joker being able to be like a tier 1 playmaker and a tier 1 rebounder and a tier 1 scorer, you have never seen that before consistently. And I think Joker just has this ability to have this baseline greatness that people can look at a series like versus the LA Lakers and say, well, I mean, Joker was good. He averaged 29, 16, and 9.8 in that series, or 28, 16, and 9.8 in that series, but was he really like elite in the series? So that's what some of this comes down to. Again, this Joker doesn't play defense thing. It's crazy. The Nuggets had the number 2 clutch defense in the league with him on the court this year. They also had the number 8 defense in the NBA this year. The Nuggets also had a better defense on court this year than Luka and the Mavs did, even post-trade deadline. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if we're talking narratives, then we can deal with that. I can always deal in narrative, but we're dealing with actual facts and information, then we can talk about that. So I think some of this is, I think Joker still has it. Joker's jump shot is going to have to come back, though. Now, he does this as a jump shooter. He will oscillate. He'll have a freaking amazing three-point shooting year, 1 year, and then the other year, he can't seem to hit much of anything. And that's definitely like affected him in this playoff run. For instance, Joker shot 35.9% from 3 over the course of this year, but then he shot 26.4%. His 3-point value went down in the playoffs. Now, his free throws went up. His field goal percentage was a 54.5. I want to say Joker shot 62% from 2, 61% from 2 in the 2 rounds that he played this year in the playoff, which, again, is just bonkers for somebody that shoots at the rim from the floater area and from mid-range as often as he does. But I think some of this is just about Joker continuing to find ways to optimize his own spacing, optimize his physicality, optimize his flow, optimize his IQ. And I think the decision-making is going to be important. I think the aggressiveness is going to be important when it comes to scoring. I think finding ways to continue to involve Michael Porter Jr. in the offense, to involve Aaron Gordon in the offense, to involve KCP, should he come back? I know Matt Moore and Adam Madas had a great episode that they did the other day about that. I'm of the mindset that the Nuggets are going to be willing to match anything that KCP gets. It's just a matter of KCP wants to be in Denver. But again, that leads to a whole different conversation. And then the Nuggets are going to be forced to do some really aggressive things. But the thing is, the Nuggets are positioned to be able to salvage whatever. If KCP comes back, they can make that work and then supplement the bench. But if they don't, Ryan Blackburn, shout out to Ryan Blackburn with Mile High Sport, Jake Coyne, Bronco Saxbox, they both have some proposals for what the Nuggets should do if KCP were not to return. So I'd definitely go check out both of those sources. But I think this thing with Joker, man, is his jump shot needs to recover again. I don't think Joker needs to play 79 games again next year. Now, unless he is like, I'm fully good, I'm fully locked in, I'm ready to rock, ready to roll, I just don't think he needs to do that. So I think next year Joker should be looking at something where he is doing about 72, 74 games, and then by the end of the season, they get, their first seed, second seed, third seed, they're moving, they're taking care of business. Look, it don't really matter what seed you end up at that point. As long as you can get home court advantage, maybe not the 4 seed, but look, I'm locking it in, and I'm seeing if we can get Joker like a week of rest before that 4 days and 5 days that you get off, but to give them some real serious time to take some time off. So we'll see what happens. But I just think that Joker, they just need to make sure that they're managing his minutes, as he played the most minutes in the league over the last several years and the most games. It's basically him and Tatum, but Tatum is like a little bit younger than him. Tatum is 26, Joker's 29. So y'all on the other side, we're going to talk about those things the front office definitely need to do this offseason to make sure they're fortifying around their all-time great player that's going to be a top 10 player of all time by the time he exits the game. We'll talk about all that and more in segment 3 here. Locked On Nuggets. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Y'all, there are so many different stressors, so many different things that we have to deal with on a daily basis, and things that take a lot out of us. And all of us need someone that we can talk to. And even if it's something within sports, sports psychologists, sports therapists, they're all available. They help athletes all the time deal with the pressures of life and deal with the pressures of playing on national television and having everything they have to deal with. And you all and I, we work everyday jobs. We do things on a day-to-day to provide for our family, provide for ourselves. And so even if you're in school, there's just always something that you can kind of process through. Now, whether or not you've been to therapy, like, I know you might not have tried it before, but there's so many things that you can get from it to help you to take that next step in your journey you need to take. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. We'll be right back for more here. Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, we are back for the final segment here at Locked On Nugget. This is your host, Swiper. Thank y'all so much for joining us today. Man, it's been a really interesting year. I know that it didn't end the way that we wanted it to. And I think that a lot of people, including myself, were expecting the Denver Nuggets to get a championship this year, to repeat. Joker winning an MVP, huge news. But I think a lot of us have all said that, we want the Nuggets to be able to maximize this window we're in, where we got this great core with Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and Nikola Jokic. Michael Malone, been in Denver since 2014. Jokic since 2015. Jamal Murray since 2016. Michael Porter Jr. since 2018. And then obviously Aaron Gordon since 2021. This team, they have been building the right way. They've been building organically. They got obviously very blessed to find an all-time great player. They have built around them well. But some of this is just going to be, what is the next step? What is the next step in making sure that in this era that they are maximizing the players they have in front of them, that they are maximizing your Jordan, your LeBron, your Kareem, your Magic, your Bird, your Kobe, your Hakeem? This is just what it is. We're in a situation where we just want to make sure that Joker is getting the support that he needs as a player. Now, I do think that the front office knows this, but this goes the same thing. There's been a lot of mock drafts that have been going around as of late. And, Kevin O'Connor has been putting a lot of stuff out about the draft and about some potential players that could be getting moved and getting placed in different places. And in his mock draft, he actually had Deron Holmes headed to Denver. Now, Deron Holmes, if you don't know who he is, a lot of people can tap into him. Deron Holmes, he is a 6'9", 10 big. He averaged 20 points a game, shot 38.6% from three, and then 8.5 rebounds a game. Now, ESPN reported that Holmes shut down workouts, and the speculation is that the Nuggets made him a promise. If that's true, then Holmes could be the floor-spacing, versatile big man that the Nuggets wish Zeke Naji has become. That is his breakdown. Holmes is going to be a great vertical spacer, which the Nuggets need. He's a good rim protector, what the Nuggets need. He's an athlete that's big and can work in space, which is what the Nuggets need. And again, in addition to that, I told y'all this multiple times, the Nuggets need to make sure they're getting him point of attacks, more of them as possible. Again, going after guards that can play well in space, guards that can play well in action defensively, guards that know what they're supposed to do offensively. And then again, Julian Strawther, he's going to have to come along as a shooter. Michael Porter Jr. going to have a good shooting year again. Jamal Murray had a great shooting year. Need that again. KCP, an even better shooting year. Like, the Nuggets only really have 4 really good shooters, including Joker. So Christian Braun needs to continue to take that step, and Julian Strawther has to come to the party. He did not shoot well this last year, but again, he's a rookie, getting used to the NBA schedule, the NBA life, everything. But this season in particular, if the Nuggets are going to have maybe 6 contracts on their roster, 6 of them that are either going to be first, second, or third years, meaning not including Colin, 6 rookie contracts on the roster, they're going to need to get production from whoever they get at 28. If they take that, if they remain at that pick and take it, whoever they get in another draft, in terms of like if they want to go later on, like if they want to, go second round this year, first round again this year, whatever they do. But they're going to need to get 28 right, Peyton, Christian, Julian. All 4 of those players, I think, are going to have to be essential players off the bench. Essential players off the bench. Because the thing is that they are going to need rotation of young players that are that have athleticism, and that are ready to work, that understand basketball. Now, Peyton and Christian, this is going to be year 3 in the system. They should be fully integrated. I think having another year with Julian Strawther, making sure that he can do what he needs to do, that's another thing right there. Julian is a 6'6" guard forward who can be a pretty decent defender, at least, a borderline below, let's say above average defender, but he has the tools to be an elite shooter. And he could even take it off the dribble and get to the rim with that floater. Those players are going to have to make sure they're stepping up and elevating. And the Nuggets, if Calvin Booth is going to lean into this philosophy, which I understand comprehensively because of the second apron and the CBA agreements, then it's going to be imperative that those 4 players, especially for me, are the ones that take that step. Because if they're not going to go veteran, which I think they should, then Jokic's career at this point in time is going to be defined by how much he's able to carry in the regular season, but how much he can rest. Does he have players around him that can carry the load the further he gets into a season? That way, when he comes into the playoffs, you don't have flameouts. Because I think a lot of the reason defensively that he was not as good this year as he was in the playoffs, at least, as he was the year before, I don't know if he had the energy. I think that some of this is that obviously Anthony Davis played really well in the first round, but it just wasn't the same level of tenacity consistently. Like when we saw from Jokic in games 3, 4, and 5 in the Timberwolves series, his defense was lights out. He was really freaking good. Bottled up Anthony Edwards multiple times in game 5. They get up 3-2. He has that 40-point, 13-assist game. One of the best playoff games you'll ever see. But Joker, on the other end of this, I think maximizing his energy output, he plays 69 games the year they won a championship and then 79 games the next year. I don't think that they should exist in that world. Now, Joker's going to tell you when he wants to play. But what I'm saying is that even if he's playing in those games, it's just putting players around him that are allowing him to take those breaks and rest. Because if Zeke Naji is going to be on this roster, Zeke has to be better. If they say we can't get that out of Zeke and Zeke needs to be traded, then they have to give him somebody that's going to be able to fill in those minutes. And then maybe that's Holmes. Maybe that's what they do. Maybe that's the selection. Maybe that's it. But is he going to be ready to play and ready to play real minutes? That's what I'm saying. That's what we're going to have to find out. And Jamal Murray, obviously. Jamal Murray, I think it's just him taking another leap as a player, as a playmaker, as a floor, as an engine offensively. Because when Jamal Murray is in the game, can you make sure that you're taking as much pressure off of Joker as possible? And again, Joker's so good that he's going to be maybe another MVP next year coming his way. He's that good. But can the Nuggets fortify the roster around their big? And can the Denver Nuggets youth players, the youth movement they have, Strawther, Peyton, Brown, and then whoever they take at 28. And Hunter Tyson, Jalen Pickett, can they come along to the party? That's going to be the question. Y'all, let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Is Nikola Jokic still the best player in the world? What would you do if you were Calvin Booth to continue to fortify the roster around a top 10 player of all time? Let's talk about all that and more. This is your boy Swiper. I'll see y'all on the other side.
You are locked